Good morning, folks. It's Nick here from Penwith Landscape Partnership. What I thought I would do this morning, I shot a little video in the woods here on the edge of Sanctuary Beacon, and one of the bits of feedback I got was that I didn't let you see closely enough what the identification features were for the trees that I was pointing out. So what I thought we'd do is come back into Tony's woods and have a closer look at what the features are on the tree species that help you to identify them. Now, in the UK, we've got something like 60 different native species. However, not all of them are common. Some of them are very, very rare. And in Cornwall, we've only got about 12 or 15 commonly found native tree species. So it's actually quite easy to get your head around which they are. You do have to watch out for trees that have been planted, and there's quite a few trees that have been planted in the woodland that I'm in now that aren't native or native to this particular area, so you do have to watch out for those. But on the whole, when you're walking through some woodland, it's fairly straightforward to get your head around what the trees are. So a couple of useful resources I've got to show you. One thing which is very handy is to have a good tree guide. This is the Collins Tree Guide, very comprehensive. It can be a little bit daunting because what they tend to do is have everything that you're likely to find in the whole of, yes, Britain and Europe. So there's more trees than you need just for Britain in here. But it's got excellent illustrations and excellent descriptions, so it's a very useful book. However, something that's a lot more straightforward, a lot more simple and very practical to use in the field is this. This is produced by the Field Studies Council. They've got a whole range of these identification guides, and what they are is a nice, easy to follow key. And a key is a series of questions that enables you to say, are the leaves shaped like needles or are they broad-leaved? Yes or no. And then you go on, work your way through a series of questions, and that will take you to the majority of the trees that you're likely to find. So this is a really good place to start. They're pretty cheap, they can easily fit in your backpack, so a really good tip. I've actually got two here. This one I've brought along because this is a guide to the names of the different features, and one of the other comments I had was that occasionally I mentioned sort of some technical terms like the shapes of leaves. So this is a kind of glossary which is very useful. You do actually get one in the field guides as well, but I brought that one along because that's got some nice things on it. The last thing I would recommend is there are a lot of resources online that you can use, and so for example I've got the Woodland Trust tree identification app on my phone, so that's another thing that can help a lot with your tree ID. Okay, let's go and have a little wander and see what we can find. I'll point stuff out as we go along. I think probably we're going to find half a dozen or so species to start you off with. So if I can stand up without bashing you into something, we are in a little patch of low willow woodland here. This is a very common habitat actually in West Cornwall. It's known as willow carr, that's the other name for it. And the tree that makes up willow carr is, there's quite a lot of different types of willow, but this particular willow is known as grey willow. And if we have a look at the leaves, I'll show you the leaves. Willows often have very long narrow leaves, linear leaves they're called, but these ones are much more oval. I hope you can see that. So this is grey willow. There is another willow which has leaves a similar shape, but the leaves are much larger, and that's goat willow. So if the leaves are small like this one, this is very likely to be Salix cinerea, the grey willow. It's also got quite a distinctive growth pattern, very gnarly and low and twisty. The shapes of the trees can help. It's known as the GIS, the general impression of size and shape. That's a term used by bird watchers, but it's also very true for trees. So we're going to look at the leaves. We're also going to look at some of the other features, like the buds, the bark, and the overall shape of the tree. Now, when you're starting out, it helps to split things down into groups. And so what I'm going to do is focus on, there's 3 broad groups of trees. The conifers, which tend to have needle-shaped leaves or scales, we're going to ignore those. Those are the ones which are evergreen and have cones throughout the year. Your typical Christmas tree type tree. So the trees that we're going to focus on are known as the broadleaf trees, or the deciduous trees. Deciduous means they lose their leaves in winter. So these are the trees that are coming out. The leaves are starting to come out now after their winter period. One useful way of separating out the groups is the leaf a continuous single blade, which is known as a simple leaf, or is the leaf made up of smaller leaflets? And I'll show you an example of those. So this one we have here, this is what's known as a sycamore. This is a simple leaf. It's lobed, and it's lobed in the shape of a hand, which is known as a palmately lobed leaf. So that's sycamore. Very common in West Cornwall. And then over here, this is an example of a tree with a compound leaf. So we've got simple leaves and compound leaves. So that is a single leaf. These little things are called leaflets, and they come off a midrib. So you can see on this tree, the entire leaf is coming out on a rib, and then has these individual leaflets. So that is a single leaf, and this tree is elder. Later on this is going to have elderflower and elderberries on it. Right, let's have a little wander through into the woods. So this one again, everybody remember that? Simple leaf, but with lobes, sycamore. See what else we can find. So we're going through a little bit more willow scrub, willow car. This is an interesting feature. We'll have to have a look. There's a wonderful resource called the Cornwall historic map online, which enables you to look at features. It's an interactive map, Cornwall interactive map actually it's called, managed by Cornwall Council. And you can look and find out what features like this, the historical origin are. May well be mining, or perhaps older than that, I don't know. Okay, so here we've got another tree species. Now, what we're going to look at first of all is the shape of this tree. There's another one just over there. So this is a multi-stemmed tree, which gives you a little clue. It's one that will coppice readily. Now, coppicing is where you cut a tree off at the base and it shoots up again in lots of stems. So this particular tree was one that was managed for its timber by coppicing, and you often see it with a multi-stem like this. So this tree is Hazel. And Hazel has a simple leaf, oval shaped, with quite a blunt tip, but a little pointy bit on the end, and then these sort of serrated edges, and quite a soft, furry kind of leaf. I think there's lots of little hairs on there that make it feel so soft. So, Hazel. Right, this one here, I'm sure you find this one quite easy to identify. This one's a broadleaf tree, but confusingly, it keeps its leaf all through the winter. And the reason it does that is this is an understory tree. And what I mean by understory is that woodlands are often arranged, they have a structure, and the canopy, the tallest trees, will shade out the plants and smaller shrubs that are living underneath. This tree is often found as a small shrub underneath trees that are in the canopy, and so the way it photosynthesizes, the way it gets its light, is by having its leaves all year round. So holly, which I'm sure you've guessed already with these spines, has leaves all year round. It's a simple leaf, quite easy to identify because it's got spines on it. However, not all of the leaves have got spines. I think it actually uses up quite a lot of energy making spines, so the higher leaves normally at the top aren't spiny, and so that can be a little bit confusing. So that's holly. On we go. Right, now this tree, oval leaves, rather like this hazel. However, the thing that's setting this one apart is if you look up into the tree, you'll see that it has some, see if I can reach them down, these things. So these are, it looks like a cone. So if you see a tree with broad leaves that's got cones on it, it's probably going to be this one. So this is alder, and these things aren't true cones. What they are is seeds that will float. So this one likes to live near water, so this will fall off into water and disperse its seed. Oh, I've got another one just here. Look at that. That would have been much easier for me to reach. So this is alder. Round, simple leaf, oval leaf with actually quite a blunt tip to it. Ooh, look at this, a lovely, magnificent sycamore tree I'm walking under now. Pretty much in full leaf, with some magnificent lichens. And then we're coming into a little bit more open woodland, and the reason it's looking a little bit more open is that the trees that are in this area are getting their leaves a lot later. So this one is ash, and ash is one of the last trees to come into leaf. You can see the buds are only just opening, but luckily another way that you can identify trees is by looking at their buds. And ash is very distinctive because it has this pale bark and then these black buds. Very, very characteristic. And if we go on a little bit further, I think through here there's an ash tree that was coming into leaf a little bit before this one, so I'll have a look out for that one. Where are we? Yes, here it is. This is one I spotted earlier. Watch out for the brambles. Yeah, so this is another ash tree, and if we have a little look at the leaves, sorry, little ash, that is a whole leaf. So this is another one with a compound leaf, with the leaf broken up into little, what they're called, leaflets. So ash. Right, and then the last two that I'm going to show you today, conveniently opposite one another. In the winter, this tree and this tree are quite hard to tell apart. It can be done if you have a look at the bark. These are both thorns. So what I have on this side is hawthorn, and what I have on this side is blackthorn. So let's have a little look at the hawthorn leaf. So it's a simple leaf, but it's lobed palmately, like your hand again. And then if we look in a little bit more closely, the bark is very cracked, and this is what you can recognise in winter. Quite a pale bark, but these huge spines. And this is another one of these understory trees, a shrub, if you like. Right, let's have a look at this one then. So this is blackthorn. Ow. And just a simple oval leaf, still quite small. The thing that fascinates me about blackthorn and hawthorn is that blackthorn flowers first before its leaves come out, and you can see these, there are the flowers, just about finished, those flowers, and then the leaves come out, whereas hawthorn, if we have a closer look at the hawthorn, I saw some hawthorn flowers, yeah, there they are. So the leaves come out first on hawthorn, and then the flowers later. So there's some little flower buds that haven't even opened yet. So that's going to be coming into flower next month. And the other name for hawthorn is May, and it flowers in May. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I think I'll leave it there. Speak to you again. Bye.